Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to La Lida Loca. I am your host, Tony, and I'm joined by my very good friend, Don Terrace from Don's Family Vacation. And this is the very first iteration of what may or may not become known as the Cruise News Roundtable, where we chop up some of the latest cruise news in the cruising space. And the theme for tonight's show is Bad Cruise Judgment. I think the format of the show will work like this. We have some set topics that we are going to talk about. We're going to talk through those topics. May take 5 minutes, may take 20 minutes. I don't know. But around the half-hour mark, the top of the hour, we will start answering some questions. So just sit back, enjoy the show. Make sure you hit the like button right now if you could. And we'll engage with some question and answer about top of the hour, bottom of the hour, I guess it would be. But without further ado, what's going on, Don? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How was the celebration?
It was good. Had a good time. Of course, that was my second time on the celebration. I'll challenge you right here at the beginning of the show. I really think you need to get on one of these new Carnival big ships. You have a lot of cruising experience. I know your vast cruising resume, but this is I feel like this is a hole in your resume. I think you have to try it.
It's been a long time since I've been on Carnival. I was speaking to the Carnival representative on my last cruise because it was a training cruise, and we're trying to work out some schedules because I'm solid booked right now until February. So probably March, I'm going to try and get on one of the new big ships. We had the Mardi Gras plan twice and it got canceled on us. So it's not for lack of trying.
That pesky COVID. All right, let's talk about some bad cruise judgment. We covered a few stories this week already. Let's go back to the story about the Ocean 11 art caper heist on the Carnival on the Carnival Legend. What do you think? Like, in your assessment, do you feel like that these people thought they would get away with it? Because the fact that they had it like on display in their house made me think that maybe they thought they could get away with it.
I think they thought they did get away with it. Once they got off the ship, they went like this. Hey, no one noticed. No police were waiting for us. But then again, criminals are more stupid than you realize half the time. You're wearing the exact same shirt you stole the item on as your main shirt for posting on your Facebook channel or social media channel. I mean, come on. It makes it so easy. That was the reason the FBI was able to get the search warrant. Because they could match the clothes and everything up. Like, crazy.
It's a crazy thing. Like, it's interesting when you think about art on cruise ships. I guess there's some sort of, I mean, you could have a serious debate whether art is just subjective, right? It's worth what somebody will pay for it. I saw a lot of comments on my video like, well, the price of that art is just, inflated and it's overpriced. But the reality is it's exactly right priced. If somebody will pay whatever they're asking for it, that's what the value of that piece of art is to them. And so the funny thing about art, it's so subjective, but all these cruise ships that we're on, they leave art everywhere. And I'm surprised that it took them as long as it did. If we want to talk about bad cruise judgment, maybe only doing the inventory every so often could be a component of that.
It's like, hey, something's missing from the display case.
Well, it had to just be sitting out. You would think that somebody that works there every day would be like, hey, where's that ugly piece of sculpture that we look at every day?
It's a nuts story. Speaking of art subject, when we opened up here in Ottawa, the National Art Gallery, the big art piece that was put on was this 40-foot painting that's basically like a flag straight down, and it's three colored stripes. $3.8 million. That's what they paid for it.
That's wild. It's interesting. I can't name the cruise line. I know like Prima, they have, I think it was touted as $1 million art collection. And then I think I saw a headline just recently where another cruise ship supposedly has a multi-million-dollar art collection. It's one of those deals. So I know that Park West, I don't know if you know the inside working on it. I don't know the inside working on it. but Park West isn't owned by the cruise ship. So I would love to know what they pay the cruise line to be on their cruise. I feel the same way about the spa. I wonder how much money just flows from the spa or the art Park West flows to the cruise line to make it make sense for the cruise line. It's got to be in the millions of dollars, I would think.
Got to be worth their while, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. We wonder why it's so expensive. Well, the cruise line gets their cut and the companies get their cut, right? So
Oh yeah.
everything's marked up.
It's super inflated. Have you ever bought art on a cruise ship?
Not once.
Yeah, I've never bought art on a cruise ship. The other interesting aspect of that story is they said that they'd done the investigation, they'd obtained the search warrant, they went into they executed the search warrant, they found the art in the folks' house, but no charges had been brought. Do you think they're just gonna? What do you think? What should be the penalty for stealing $13,000 worth of art? What do you think they should do to those people?
Well, what if you were stealing $13,000 cash? Whatever the penalties are, 6 months in jail, whatever it is. But I think the reason they haven't charged them yet was because they're double checking because the people are claiming that they paid for it, and they just picked it up and then left with it. How else could we get off the ship? Of course we paid for it. So they're going to double check and dot their I's, right, before they bring him to court. But it's yeah. Where's your credit card receipt? Where's your that kind of stuff, right?
Well, if they stole it, that would definitely be a case of bad cruise ship judgment. And then, of course, the story that's blowing up over the last couple days is that apparently there were some people on my cruise that had used some fraudulent credit card numbers. I don't know. I would love to know the whole story on this. Like, the stories that swirl around in the different places in the world. Like, you can go and buy some hacked credit card numbers, some stolen credit card numbers. It sounds like, whatever this scenario, since they didn't actually have the physical credit cards, that had to happen. And just for context, in case anybody hasn't been following the news, there were 4 passengers that were trying to disembark on the Carnival Celebration. And then when I was home a little earlier, Jenny B, when we were disembarking on the Carnival Celebration, we saw a group of people get pulled out of line. And then after Jenny saw the picture, she said, I think those were the people that got pulled out of line. But 4 people pulled out of line, and they were being questioned because they had provided credit card numbers to settle up their bill, and all of those credit card numbers that they provided were declined. And so the cruise line was asking them to produce the physical credit card, which they were unable to do. And then apparently they've been arrested for credit card fraud. And it seems like one of the most egregious parts of the story is that one of the persons had run up a $20,000 bill on the cruise ship, and part of that $20,000 included $11,000 of a casino cash out. So that's a lot of money. Again, when I see these stories, I mean, I guess with the art, okay, yeah, hey, I thought we paid for it and we took it. But I don't know how these folks thought that they would get away with it. Maybe they're new cruisers, right? I think we take a lot of stuff for granted. We know that if your bill isn't settled properly, they don't let you off the cruise ship. So if you're out there and you're new and you don't know the way that it works, if you get to the end of the cruise and somehow you've spent all your money, or your credit card can't be authorized, or your debit card doesn't work, they're going to hold you there on the cruise ship until they come to some sort of agreement with you. It's almost like being in the streets. You got to make some sort of payment plan with the man. But what do you think these folks were thinking?
They weren't. Well, I hate to say it, but you look at the mugshots, they don't look like they're the brightest light in the sky, shall we say. Like the cruise lines, basically you usually have like $100 limit. And once you receive, like on your account, and once you go over that, they'll check your credit card and make sure it's good and valid. Because I've been contacted halfway through a cruise saying, by the way, your credit card didn't go through, but I've made the payment. It just hasn't hit my credit card yet. But yeah, obviously new to cruising, and to put $11,000 in your luggage, you're obviously cashing out before you're spent the money you're loading every night, right? They probably put $4,000 in, spun for 500, took 3,500 out in cash, and then went back the next night, did the same thing. Like they were drawing attention to themselves by
Yeah.
doing stuff like that. But you were going to get caught no matter what. No
I
matter
think this
what.
could I think this could be one of the challenges. So the cruise that we were on was an elite casino cruise, and they were hosting the $1 million slot tournament. So there were 2,000 people that were invited to be on board participating in that slot tournament, and there's a lot of money that gets thrown around in the casino. I've been at more than one table where I've seen somebody on the finger, just on the tip say, "Hey, I'd like $5,000 or I'd like $10,000," and for a signature, the $10,000 shows up, and then it makes its way back into the casino's stack. But I've seen some crazy stuff like that. I wonder if that's part of the problem. But yeah, to your point,
It might have been.
yeah, to your point, normally you can't charge, but maybe the fraudulent thing had a high credit limit. So maybe it was a process of, okay, it approved the $10,000 or whatever, but then it took when it started to reconcile a couple days down the road, maybe that's when the flags went up. But yeah, of course, these folks got arrested, and everything's alleged. It's under investigation. But we've seen some crazy stuff on cruise ships. People being drug mules. And speaking of being a drug mule, which I'm not, but the new procedure for sniffing you at the Carnival terminal is interesting. So you have to so you eventually end up in the straight corridor, and there's a guy with the drug dog. And you have to lay all of your bags. So like say you're carrying a carry-on and you've got a second bag that has that luggage strap that you can roll on your carry-on. You have to unassemble that and take everything, all the bags, and set it on the floor. And then you have to let the dog walk across all of your bags. It was a pretty quick system, but it does kind of slow down embarkation. For the first time ever, we were very early on the cruise ship. We got there about 10 a.m. I don't think I've ever been on a cruise ship at 10 a.m. Wow. And then one thing I really haven't highlighted, and I know I haven't talked to you about it, but that was my 50th cruise since starting in 2017. So, of course, I'll never catch up to you because we're both continuing to cruise. But it was a pretty exciting milestone.
You go on more shorter cruises than I do. So I bet you over the years you will catch up.
Not this year, though.
Yeah. Well, you did quite a few. You did quite a few out of Tampa and that, right?
Well, what I'm excited about is the Allure of the Seas now over in Port Canaveral has 3 and 4 day cruises. So here's the thing. We were talking about it. Next year we had some pretty big plans, and we'll talk about our cruises in a little bit. But I feel like next year I'm going to end up doing a lot of shorter cruises around Florida just to deal with some stuff. But keep it with the theme. So that's bad, Cruise Judgment there with these guys. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But on the other side, so those are passenger-centric. I know you've been covering that story of the cruise ship, and I don't even know I haven't gotten deep into it. I haven't covered it on the show. But I did see the headlines, 100 passengers injured, cruise ends, they returned to where they came from. Can you give a brief overview of that? And then let's try to put that in the context of bad cruise judgment.
Sure. It's the Spirit of Discovery, and one of those small luxury ships. And it was in the Canary Islands, and they decided, well, okay, we're going to miss one port in the Canary Islands and head to Spain. And on their way to Spain, they didn't get to Spain in time. The port closed before they got there. And there was no other port that they could get to, and they had to ride out this storm, in the ocean. It ended up having 30-foot waves, 50-mile-an-hour winds in a small ship. Deck 6 was ravaged, flooding, deck chairs, tables all over the place. And passengers were locked in their room for about 18 hours. They couldn't come out. They had to have food delivered to them. Many of them got bruises and sprains, but 5 people had to go and be admitted to hospital when they got to the port. And over 100 people, that's a ton of people on a small ship, right? That's a huge percentage, 10, 15, 20%. And the big question out there is how did they get caught in this storm? Like, why did they wait so long to leave? There was no other cruise from that. There's lots of cruise lines in that area, but they're the only ones who got caught in the storm. And it kind of begs the question, who was making that call not to leave early?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder if it's because it's a smaller cruise line. Like what we see obviously from the big three, the big four, really any major cruise line that operates out of North America is they will try to find safe harbor. And most of the time they will go way out of their way to avoid a storm well in advance. And so they'll go somewhere where the seas are calm. We went through it when we were, Royal took good care of us when we were in Shanghai. We had to get to
Yeah.
the port early because we had that typhoon bearing down on the port of Shanghai, and we did get caught in a typhoon. I don't know how big the waves were or what the wind was like, but we were on a brand new big cruise ship, and that ship was rocking, and you
Yeah.
could hear the still creaking on that cruise ship. And there were people getting sick all over the place. I think everybody was safe. We saw some stuff fly off tables, that kind of thing. But I could not imagine being on a small cruise ship in that kind of weather. I bet you they probably just were risking it for the biscuit, right? Like they knew that they would have unhappy passengers. We have this conversation all the time. People are upset when the cruise
Yeah.
lines drop a port and go somewhere else during a storm. But I feel like this is the counter of that. This is the see what this is what could happen scenario. Maybe this is a story we have to remember so that when people say, "Oh, it didn't seem that windy at Coco Cay," we could go, "Well, that's what these people thought," and all of a sudden, it got bad. So
Yeah. Well,
I don't
even on
know.
my last cruise with NCL, when I was on it, we left Bermuda a full day early because there was a storm coming in, and then our rest of the trip back to New York was as calm as anything because we were ahead of the crew. We left in plenty of time,
Right,
but
right.
the minute the captain announced that we're going to be a day leaving early, there was a lineup at customer service of people just complaining. And I just was sitting there shaking my head. No, yes, I'd rather be in a hurricane. Thank you very much, everybody. Everyone was saying it's never as bad as you guys predict. It never is. The one time it is the time you're holding on for your dear life.
Yeah, nothing's a
So, yeah.
problem. Nothing's a problem until it's a problem. And then, well, we saw it on that China cruise, the Japan cruise. Everybody was all happy until the end of the cruise when the captain revealed that we'd actually, sailed through the hurricane when they told us we were trying to outrun it. And then, people were all happy to still be cruising. They could have canceled the cruise, honestly. They could
Yeah.
have canceled the cruise and just bugged out. There was a good hour for us where I was like, wow, could you imagine because that was no easy journey like that. I'm very inexperienced in traveling internationally. That was the first time I left the continent. My cell phone didn't work in China. We barely knew each other. I didn't know how to get a hold of you. We had the wrong directions for where we were supposed to meet. The taxi drivers didn't understand what Disney World or Disneyland was. And, it worked out on that first night. But then we got toward the cruise and it was like, wow, could you imagine that somehow I'd have to change my flights and go back home and lose out on all this? And it was a different time in my life. That would have been super stressful, but it's funny. And speaking of people like customer service, I had to get change on the last day. I don't know if everybody knows this. So a lot of times people struggle, like if you got big bills, little bills, $100 bills, whatever, that you want to get changed to tip or to go out to port or something like that. And I think I picked this up from you because you're always like taking your money and going to customer service, getting change, getting foreign currency exchange, that kind of stuff. And so I was on the last day of the cruise and I knew I had to tip some people out. I only had, the bills that I had from the casino. So I jumped in that line on the last day and it was person after person removing their gratuities and, explaining why they were removing their gratuities. So it's a weird phenomena. I talked about, tipping a little bit yesterday. I don't know if you saw that DoorDash story. It's,
Yeah.
the
Guess who's not
contentions.
using DoorDash ever again?
Yeah. So, but what do you think? Could you imagine if all of a sudden they decided who would get service on a cruise ship based on whether or not they were tipping? That would be interesting. I wonder how many
I don't,
people would
don't think they could
remove
do
it.
it.
I don't
I
think they
don't
could
think
do it.
there's too many people.
Yeah. I don't think they could do it because a lot of times those tips are removed at the end. But that's a wild phenomena. So, again, we thank our lucky stars that these cruise lines try to move us out of harm's way. And maybe that was a
Yeah.
story of some bad cruise judgment where they didn't find safe harbor.
Maybe,
You and
maybe
I,
the storm picked up much bigger than they thought.
that
It's
happens to
possible,
you. It's unpredictable.
but
It's
you
unpredictable.
don't hear them getting caught in a storm very often.
No, no. Okay, so let's face it. You and I have exhibited some bad cruise judgment from time to time too. I mean, there was that one.
Once or twice.
There was that one late night in Puerto Rico when we found. No, that's a story I can't tell here. The thing that when I was thinking about the show tonight and thinking about our bad cruise judgment, I think for us, some of our worst, cruise judgment has been around excursions. And famously, we had that Cabot Trail excursion where we spent all day on a bus just recently. And the interesting thing is, I guess what I learned from those experiences is that nobody really knows you as well as you know you, which is obvious. But some of the bad cruise excursions that we've been on is stuff that's been recommended to us that other people said were amazing. And so beyond those excursions, is there any time that you feel like you may have used any bad cruise judgment? Can you think of, I'm just putting you on the spot here. We didn't talk about this in advance, but can you think of any instance where you're like, I really wish I wouldn't have done this on a cruise or that kind of thing?
Not normally. Like I've been cruising so long now that I pretty well have it locked down as far as anything. Maybe speaking up sometimes. I know you were just mentioning the other day that, I'm not going to get in a fight with these people who are kept on talking behind me in the theater, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm at that point in my life at my age now that I can just turn around and say, okay, I'm ready to tell you to be quiet.
Yeah.
I'm at that point. I don't do it very often, but when it's overly done, like I had to speak up to that line, but I didn't press it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just got off the ship and I said, hey folks, if you just got off the elevator, sorry, the line's that way. And because there's like 300 people there that are in front of you. And then as I turned around, I heard her say, people just have to mind their own business because everyone's just trying to get off the ship. And I turned to her and say, yep, those 300 people are trying to get off the ship and you just butted in front of them. But you be that special lady. You be all about you. And then I turned around and that's the end of my conversation. And the family was there and our young teenagers were there. I actually started talking to one of the sons and everything like that. I didn't treat them badly or anything after that, but I had to say something and everyone around them heard me say it, even the Norwegian rep, and they didn't do anything. But what's the poor girl going to do? Start an argument with 12 people in the middle while everyone's trying to get off? So I felt bad for her, but that was poor judgment on her part to get off the elevator and bud beside a guy on YouTube, because I could have posted it everywhere.
That is not a non-unique occurrence on disembarkation day.
No.
If I could implore the cruise lines to do anything, make sure you got that locked down, because when we disembarked the Celebration, we had priority disembarkation, and they asked us to meet in the main theater. And so on the Celebration, on the lower deck, you have to snake your way through a long corridor to get into the theater. They were having everybody line their luggage up. And so by the time they started the disembarkation process, we were like very far tucked away from the door, the exit. And as we started to make our way out of the theater, it's right by an elevator bank. And so everybody that flooded off the elevator bank just cut in line. And there's really no way to avoid it. You just hope people don't do that. But it's, disembarkation. I've always said it, that the three most stressful times on a cruise, and one of them's been alleviated essentially, embarkation, muster drill, and debarkation. But I think most of the tempers that I've seen flare up, I've seen a lot of flare ups on disembarkation day. It's the weirdest thing. Like, on that Princess cruise that we were on to New England, there were a lot of people that were just angry and willing to shoot their mouths off. And
you seem to find them all.
We seem to find them all. And fortunately, there was nobody there that would jaw jack them. You know what I mean? But you're going to run into other situations where you don't know who you're shooting your mouth off to, and somebody's going to hit you. And so it's the weirdest thing. Like I kind of err on the side of like, I don't want to. I don't ever want to be in any kind of altercation on a cruise ship, and so I'll just suck it up. And but that loud talkers behind me, it was so crazy. It was one of those things like they were almost part of the show. As the
Yeah.
show's volume would crescendo, then they would crescendo to try to continue their conversation. And I'm thinking if there's ever a clue that you should shut up, is the fact that you're trying to talk over the music. But it's that cruise life. We take the bad with the many, many goods, and it's still a blast. But we're still human, so there's still things that bother us. And speaking about cruises, let's transition out of the news. I think that's good. 26 minutes on bad cruise judgment. There's a lot more we could talk about in the cruise news, but we'll save that for another time. Let's transition over to actual cruising. Okay, one more cruise news story, if I can. Big story today coming out of France that Celebrity Cruise Lines have taken ownership of the Celebrity Ascent. They got the keys. They put up the little air freshener, the little trees that smell like new cars, and they're going to bring that ship over to Florida for some of its early cruises. Are they doing a transatlantic over before?
No.
Like when's the? So are you going to be on the inaugural cruise for the Ascent?
Yes,
Nice.
I am. I'm on the 4-day, 3-day inaugurals.
4-day, 3-day. I heard that you hated the name on it. Like it wasn't
Not
majestic.
not the Ascent, the next one.
Oh, the
They
next
call it
one.
the XL.
The XL. You don't like the XL name. You think they should have called it the Buzz Lightyear or something.
Everything goes in progression, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden it's going back down below, the edge. I mean, XL isn't even like cutting edge as good as that kind of thing. So I think they goofed.
So Ascent is your next cruise, and that's what, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah. I head out on the 21st and head out to Fort Lauderdale again.
Out of Fort Lauderdale, and so there's a lot of things that make the Ascent special. Actually, I don't know anything that makes it special other than the one thing, that it is being co-captained by brothers.
Yeah.
And so it seems like they do a good job of having, captain statuses on Celebrity cruise ships. What do you think? Do you think you'll make a connection with the brothers? Do you think they'll be cooler than Captain Kate? Does Captain Kate have anything to worry about? What do you think's going on?
I don't think Captain Kate has anything to worry about. She's a social media giant as far as the cruise lines are concerned. Talk about great advertising for your cruise line when you have somebody on social media that works like that and everyone just adore. Like, she's a fantastic lady. But I think she's already told the captains that I'm going to be there.
Nice.
Unbeknownst to me, somebody on her crew let me know. So I don't know what's going to happen, but that'll be interesting. I haven't met these gentlemen yet, so it'll be really interesting.
Tassos, isn't that their last name? Tass, or one of their first names is? I don't know. I have to look it up. Have you done much research on the Ascent? Do you know what any of the major differences will be than the previous cruise ships?
I know they have a couple different dining venues, which one of them upset me because one of them doesn't have my chicken with the pot pie with the puff pastry on top. The bisque. The bisque we had.
Yeah, the lobster bisque, right?
Yeah, I don't think that restaurant's on the ship this time around. So I'm going, that kind of annoyed me a little bit. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to give it a full tour because it only has one stop, Cozumel, and then the next one is just out to sea and then back, I think. I don't even think we stop at a port.
Oh, wow.
So I haven't really researched it that much. I haven't had much time with the bookings of all the Sun Princess cruises I had to do there. We're up to 170 some cabins on that sailing, so that's going to be really interesting. I don't know how I can deal with 300 and some people all at one time, but I'll try.
That's wild. So I'm looking forward to seeing what your experience is like there. Is that going to be your last cruise for this year?
The Ascent, and then I am leaving the Ascent. I'm taking the Brightline Railway. Is it the Brightline it's called?
Yep.
Down to Universal Studios. My friends that went to Jamaica and Disney are going to Universal. They asked me to tag along. So I'm there for 7 days. And then I'm jumping on another Princess ship, going back out of Fort Lauderdale again. And then on the 12th, I fly back to Ottawa for Christmas, and then I'm heading to the Icon, to the Regent Seven Seas, and then the Sun Princess, all back to back to back
All
in the
right,
middle
so
of January.
let's work the dates out. This is a Bruder film. That was the Kennedy assassination film. The 21st, you're going on the Ascent.
Yeah.
When does that end?
The Ascent ends on the 29th.
The 29th. Then you're going to Orlando. So you're going to go to Orlando on the Brightline to Universal, and then when is that over?
That is over on the 5th.
Okay. So you're not coming on my Princess Cruise. How dare you?
All right. Yes, I am.
That's right. Don's going to be on. I knew it. How about that? I was right all along, everybody. Man, so many people on that celebration, like, why is Don making that video? Is he going to be on this cruise? The funny thing was, so the first day was embarkation day, surprise. And the next day on the celebration, we had our Halloween party. So I was working the microphone, and I said, hey, man, did everybody see Don? And they're like, no, we haven't seen Don. I said, yeah, I just saw him on the YouTube. He's at his place in Ottawa. He's not going to be here. So, no, that's exciting. So, I felt like the math worked out.
I literally had like 20, 30 emails saying, are you coming on the cruise? So that's why I made the video on, and I made it on my secondary channel. I didn't make it on my main channel or anything, but I said, I hope I thought
it was newsworthy. One more news story, and then we'll transition over to questions. And what I would like to happen before we transition to questions, I would like to see us get to 1,000 likes. There's 1,400 people here, 641 likes. All we need is 359 more likes, and we can get right there to 1,000. Take a moment, hit that like button if you would. If you're enjoying the content, we sure would appreciate it. Show YouTube what's for by letting them know that you're digging the show. So NCL, have you been on the? Have you ridden the go-karts on any of those NCL ships?
Yeah, I've done it on the Encore.
Okay, before. On the Encore. So now we get the NCL Aqua coming out, the third of the Prima class ships. It's going to be a little bigger. However, there's no go-karts. What do you make of that?
You know what? As cool as it looks to have the go-karts on the ship, I don't think they're utilized as often. Like, that's a lot of space, right? Like,
yeah.
the next one had 3 decks, right? Like 3 layers. That's a lot of deck space. That's what I noticed on the Epic. The ropes course they have on the back takes up a lot of space.
I've been on a few. I think maybe I've been on 5 NCL ships at this point. None of them have like a legit big lead-up pool area. Yeah, it's like the main pool is always kind of compressed in, by the bars and all that. And then of course on those ships that have the go-karts, they overhang. So I didn't know if it was a real estate thing or if it was a money-making thing. It could be a combo. But I'm interested to see what this water roller coaster is going to be like. Now, when I read it, it kind of felt like, Disney already has that kind of thing that goes around their funnel, which is a water coaster. So I don't know if it's going to be enhanced for that. But the rendering looks pretty massive, right? Like a lot of tubing, a lot of turns, all that kind of stuff. It looks bigger than what the Disney thing would be. So that would be pretty interesting.
And you can race your friend because there's 2 tracks side by side.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm interested in it. I do want to go on the Viva. I did like the Prima. I would like to go on the Viva. Quickly, how was your experience on NCL? That's the first time you've been on in a while? Well, we were on the Vloggers cruise on NCL. Yeah. What did you think of this last NCL that you were on?
Well, I had a good experience, but it was a lot of work on this one. We had training classes 3 of the days on there, and I was giving courses on there as well. We had private meetings with different suppliers and that, like Carnival was there, and WestJet Vacations, all that kind of stuff. And but I found myself not saying to myself, I got nothing to do tonight. Because they've cut that one show out, right? They're all down to the one Broadway show. Now, they did bring in a juggler one night, and they did bring in 4 singers that were doing like a jazz thing one night, but it didn't be. And then, of course, they had Wheel of Fortune on this.
Oh, nice.
which is fun. It's a fun thing. I still think game shows are kind of like a day thing, almost to
Yeah.
me, like a
Well,
day thing,
I'm
family
I'm
oriented.
I'm going to give Carnival props for that Family Feud, though. I don't know how much money they paid to get it. I've only seen it once. I've been on several ships with it. I'm spending less time in the casino, so I've started to explore. Like, normally I go to the regular production shows, and then I very rarely go to like Love and Marriage or Game
Yeah.
Show, that kind of stuff. But I checked out the Family Feud, and it was like legit watching the, like, you just needed Steve Harvey, and it was like legit watching the Family Feud, or Richard Dawson watching Family Feud. And the nice thing, and I mentioned on the live stream last night, you could tell that they spend some time with those families prior to the game. It's
Yeah.
not just like, here we go, because they had little jokes written between the families, and they had a little routine worked out. And the cool thing about that is they had that show 3 times in one evening, so you could make a night out of Family Feud because it was a different team each time.
Each time,
And
yeah.
yeah, it was really nice. I thought it was a good use of the main theater. That's why you got to go on with these new Carnival ships, because they essentially have 2 main theaters. They have a cast and a whole production facility that goes with the theater that's up front in the main theater, and then they also have as extensive of a production and cast in this thing called the center stage. It's called something different on each ship. So it's center stage on the Celebration. I think it's called the Grand Central on the Mardi Gras, but the shows were weird on the Celebration.
I heard
like
you
they,
say that. Yeah.
they didn't make a lot of sense. So I would love to see that run through your filter and see what you think about it. But I think you would appreciate the production value of the shows. Okay. That's the Cruise News Roundtable. Thanks everybody for checking that out. We're not leaving. I'm going to answer questions, but I'll wrap it up in case I want to do something else. Maybe this would make a good podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Cruise News Roundtable portion. We're going to transfer over into some question and answer. If you'd like us to answer one of your questions, just type the word question in front of it. We probably won't answer every question. If you don't get your question answered, it's not because you're a horrible person and that we hate you. It's just we didn't get to your question. So don't let that tweak your brain a little bit. All right. Almost 1,000 likes. I'm so impressed with you guys. We're 66 away. All right. I'm looking. All right. I see what Lizzie presents with a question. What is your intake on the Carnival Horizon? What do we think about the Carnival Horizon? I've been on that, so I'm torn between which I like better. I don't know if I like the Vista class of cruise ships better than this new XL cruise ships, or vice versa. Those are my favorite Carnival ships. The 5 ships that make up the Vista class and the XL class, I think those are Carnival's best and brightest. I do like some of the older Carnival ships. They have their own charm, but from an overall cruising experience, I like it. I was on Horizon last year, and Jenny B was on there too. We like it quite a bit. It's got a nice little atrium area. The layout's fairly okay. If you're going on it, I think you'll have a great time. Let's see. Question, September the 24th. This is from Kathy Santa Cruz. Closed loop out of New York City to New England and Canada, September 24. NCL breakaway with free at sea. Is it true I cannot use my drink package for 24 hours out of and into New York? Don, you know that one?
Well, we were able to drink on like within an hour of getting on the ship.
We might have had to
left out
pay
of New York,
taxes. We might have paid taxes. I think that might be the thing. You still might have to pay some sort of New York state tax. I believe it's true for Galveston also. But yeah, a great point, Don. Nobody said, hey, you can't order a drink. So
I can't see them going
for us.
24 hours not allowing drinks when you have the drink package. No, there'd be a riot.
Let's see. Question from B Stands. Are you going with Don next December on the Sun Princess? When is that? Is that out of Florida, or is that over across the ocean?
No, December 7th, we have our group cruise next year. Is on the Sun Princess, one of our 2 groups. So
okay. I would love to, anytime I get to cruise with Don, I love to do it. That's right in my neighborhood. So there's a possibility. I'm in an interesting position. So we've had some fantastic cruises this year, and Don and I have been on many of them together. We've traveled the world in a way that I never thought I would. We started the year off in Australia. We spent time in Europe, and most of my cruising this year has been very focused on going to different places and going to ports. And I was hoping to continue that into next year. We had some great cruises lined up. We've got 2 transatlantics in March. And then we were going to do the Holland America 42-day from Fort Lauderdale all the way around the Med, all the way back. I think we're going to cancel that for 2 reasons. First, because of the conflict in Israel. That was part of the plan. We wanted to go to Israel. And I think we have to stay near the house until we figure out what's going on with my thyroid. And so I feel like maybe next year a lot of it is going to be just doing cruises around Florida. So it does open up the Sun Princess as a good possibility. I might be able to get on it, though, in between my transatlantics, which I think you're going to go on the inaugural, right?
Yeah.
What month is the inaugural of the Sun
February
Princess?
8th.
So yeah, once I get there in March, I think we might try to go from Barcelona to Rome and get on the Sun Princess for that week in between, and then do the transatlantic back. So might possibly do Sun Princess then. But of course, if I can get a good price on it, and I'd love to jump on that group cruise with you. And then I know you got an Alaskan group cruise. We haven't made our Alaskan plans yet either, but we tend to go to Alaska every year, so maybe we can get on there with you. Here's an interesting one. I want to know your advice on this too, because Don has helped me many times along the way. Blue Planet Traveler. Bleh. It's been a long day, Don. I'm a little tired. Blue Planet Travel. Question: both of you are very successful YouTube channels. What would you tell a fledgling channel about the best way to increase YouTube subs? Well, I already have an answer for this now. You want to go first? Or let me go first.
You can buy them on the internet. No, never do that. Never, ever do that, right? We actually know some people who did that, and like the channels are completely disappeared now from before. We won't mention any names, but that's the worst way to do it. The best way to do it is to be consistent. Start your videos. Don't try and be perfect, for sure. And that's how you learn. Because if you go back to Tony and I's first videos, they were probably horrible. Like, I know mine are horrible.
Yeah, mine are
like
horrible.
I go back just to laugh at them now. They're so bad. I knew nothing. But you learn as you go. And as you're going and you get better and better, that's when you'll attract your audience. And the number one key I keep telling the people, I just trained a bunch of travel agents how to do this on my last cruise. Be yourself. Never put on a fake persona, because eventually that fake persona will come through. You can pretend to be somebody, but no one can ever call you out if you're yourself, if you're true to yourself. And be honest, and you'll feel good about everything you do as far as that's concerned. Subs take a while. They're going to take, but eventually one video hits and you capitalize on that.
I think that's great advice. So here's the reality, and it took me a long time to get there. Sub count only matters 3 times, I think. It could more than 3 times, but essentially 3 times. If you have any aspiration of making money off of YouTube, if you want to treat it like a business, you need 1,000 subscribers. So subscribers matter until you get to 1,000. The other times that subs matter is if you want a trophy. If you want to be able to hang something on your wall, you need 100,000 subscribers to get one trophy, and then you need 1 million to get another. And I think they have more like at 5 million, 10 million, something like that. But what I'm trying to say is essentially after you get 1,000 subscribers, it doesn't really matter. If you're wanting to make YouTube your business, the number that you need to be more concerned with is views. Are people watching your videos? And so the research that you need to do is not necessarily how to get subscribers, but it's how to make videos that people are interested in watching. A simple exercise that I'm sure both of us have done, that I've always done, is I go to the most popular YouTube channels out there. Go to Gary, go to Emma, go to The Ship Life, go to Cruise Tips TV, go to anybody that you've seen have some success, click on the little video tab, and then sort that by the most popular videos. Royal Caribbean blog, Cruise Radio. Sort it by the most popular videos and see what's current, right? Try to find a current video that's popular, and that's going to give you some indication as to which videos people in the community are clicking on to watch. don't copy their videos, but use that as inspiration to say, oh, people are interested in this aspect of cruising, or people are interested in that aspect of cruising, and then try to make a video that people are going to be interested in watching by putting your own spin on it. Another thing that you could do is go to some of these mega large Facebook groups and see what questions people are asking over and over and make a video about that. And you know, it's YouTube's hard. It's a hard dance, because eventually the whole game of YouTube is making content that people will watch. That's what YouTube wants. They want content that will keep people on the platform. And so really the nut that you're trying to crack is, how do I make stuff that's entertaining that people want to watch? And as you get better and better at that, then you'll see increases in sub counts and you'll see increases in view counts. But those are the numbers I watch more than sub counts, is how many views am I getting on a video? Are people clicking on my thumbnail? And are people watching the video, you know, 50 or 60% of the video? So, but yeah, and 100% what Don says, you just got to do it. And
you were right the other day, I saw your video. Thumbnails count. Don't just throw any picture up there. Yeah. Work on your thumbnails, because that's the first impression people have of your video.
Every day, so my process, every day I make my thumbnail and I write out about 5 or 6 different titles before I even record the video, because then I try to speak back to the thumbnail. And so sometimes if you get the sense that there's a mismatch between my opening message and my thumbnail, that means my thumbnail wasn't doing very good and I changed it along the way, and I wasn't able to change it in a way that kind of still matched up with what I was talking about. But yeah, I make my thumbnail and my title before I even press record. And sometimes that takes a couple hours. So, okay, that was a good question, and we probably talked it in. I'm down at the bottom again. Paulette Kashin. I'm doing the Hawaii to Vancouver cruise in April 2025. Do you think the seas will be rough? I'm sensitive to rough seas. So we're talking about essentially a Pacific crossing from California to Hawaii. I've never gone to Hawaii. Don, have you ever been in those waters?
Yeah, I have. And Pacific can be a little bit rougher than the Atlantic. So she might be in for a little bit more rougher seas, but it's not storm season. So that's the good news. But you can get into it. It's not going to be horrible, hopefully, unless you hit one of those rare storms. But it will be a little rougher than, say, the Caribbean.
Yeah, I've noticed it, especially like when we go north to Alaska, there's sections of that. But none of it's really been as rough as some of those seas around the UK. I feel like the Pacific, at least the parts of the Pacific I've been, have been a little more calm. But I do find the Pacific to be more choppy than the Atlantic. So, yeah, you might be in for a little bit of bouncing around. So, yeah, take your meds, your Bonine, whatever you do for seasickness, just in case. Just in case. Let's see. Well, question from Antonio C. Is the Havana deck available all night for Havana cabin cruises on Carnival except XL ships? I think so. Anybody in the chat have Havana experience? Help Antonio out. I'm not sure what the nuance is. Sometimes you can use that area. Sometimes you can't. You need a band. Question from Christine Douglas. Since you do Alaska every year, what is the cruise line you like for repeat? We haven't repeated. I personally haven't repeated them all. Don's pretty consistent with Princess, but so far we've been on Princess and Norwegian Carnival. But Holland America has a great reputation up there. They've been doing Alaska for 50 years, so I'd like to try that. And then that kind of leaves out Royal. So for us, Jenny and I, we're still trying to nail down a Holland and a Royal on there. But, Princess is a great choice because I've found that the naturalists, the people that are telling you about Alaska, fantastic on Princess. So, have you done any other line besides Princess in Alaska?
Yeah, I've done Holland and Royal and Norwegian. But like we were talking earlier, I like the fact that Princess has a lot of upper deck space on their ships, even their large ships, right? They don't have anything up there. Well, some Princess will now. They're putting on this new kind of a rope course thing that they have going on there, but I don't know what that's going to be like. But all the other ships have wide open top deck space. So lots of place to see. If you're in an inside cabin or anything, you have lots of space. And they always have the naturalist on the loudspeaker up on the top decks. So it's just it's really nice in Alaska to be on Princess.
This is kind of a tag-on question. Michelle Yuhi asked, Why, to you, Don, why Princess over other cruise lines? Maybe give us some insight as to what your cruising personality is. What do you like about cruising? And then how does Princess meet those
Sure.
needs?
Well, at my age, I like to be like around a more adult audience right now, right? People who like to participate in things. And I find the Princess Cruise Line passengers, like they have game shows every night in Princess Live and stuff like that. I love going to those game shows. Love and marriage game shows, Hollywood guessing game shows. Of course, the yes no game show, which I'm famous for losing at. But I won. I won on the
I was going to say you
Caribbean
won the last
Princess.
time. Yeah, yeah,
I won
yeah.
the last one. But and then the shows in the theater. There's a show every single night. You're not scheduling. You can come and go as you want. If I want to see the show twice, I can see the show twice. And they also have, as far as specialty dining is concerned, probably the cheapest specialty restaurants at sea. $29, $25. You're not getting that too often on any other cruise line.
I'll, I'll,
My last specialty dining was $89 that I went to.
yeah.
So a big difference.
I'll also add, so the technology is really good with Medallion.
Yeah.
Some of those packages that you can get now are really, I think they're really economical, good value, should I say. But I think International Cafe is sometimes overlooked as a great included food option. There's a lot, so the Carnival's got 5 or 6 included food options, but they're not open 24 hours a day. And I mean, I think that International Cafe, as much as I like eating at the local or Oceans on NCL at certain times, I think the offerings at International Cafe is great for just grab and go. So that's pretty interesting. Terry Gallant asked a question we could both answer, and now I have to remember what it was. But what was your impression of St. John, New Brunswick as a cruise stop? That's where we did the hop on, hop off, where they told us about Benedict Arnold, right? Was that St. John?
That was St. John.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. Wasn't that the place you almost got in an argument with the
Is that
lady
where we
on the
went to
bus?
the? No, that was
No,
at
that
the
wasn't St.
Breakers.
John's. That was the Breakers. That's right, earlier.
You know
Okay.
where we took that bus to though? That's also where we went to the Reversing Falls and to that totem.
Yeah.
That was all
The
pretty
Totem
cool.
Park.
Yeah, so it was neat. We took a hop on, hop off bus that was there at the port. They drove us all around St. John's. They told us, it was interesting, the lady, this was wild. So this was really my first time in Canada, and I don't think I appreciated the fact that there were Canadians that were mad that the United States gained independence from Great Britain. And I'm pretty sure that this lady that was our tour guide was a holdover from that period. Because she was talking about how, like, I'm pretty sure she just did not like Americans. But she told us some funny stories about Benedict Arnold, who eventually lived in St. John. Famously, he betrayed, George Washington. She was kind of proud of Benedict Arnold. But then that was all in the city, which I thought was pretty entertaining. There's a nice farmer's market there that we went to. And then we went outside of the city to these reversing rapids where I think the ocean meets the river. I can't remember. And then right up on the hill was this really interesting totem park. And then I think everything in that town's owned by one guy. So we saw his power plant, and that was his park, and the roads were owned by him. Yeah. I thought that was I thought that was a really good day. Did you? I enjoyed that day. I mean, it wasn't like mind blowing or anything, but it was a lot of fun.
It was much better than the 9-hour bus ride. It was much better.
Much better than the 9-hour bus drive. Wow. How about that Celtic college? That was fun. And a ham sandwich.
And everything was closed.
That's what we should have named. That's what we should. If we ever make that vlog, that's what I'm calling it: Celtic college and a ham sandwich. Ham sandwich. Question from David Chambers with a tough question that I don't know that I can answer. Do you have a favorite cruise port?
Vancouver. I love sailing out of Vancouver. Everything's right there now, I don't like the terminal because it's a conference center. It's not, most of the year it's for concerts and, stuff like that. But staying there at the Pan Pacific, right there attached to the cruise terminal, and everything is right there on the dock. There's tons of nightlife. There's entertainment everywhere. There's really great restaurants on there. It's a huge sporting place. You can take seaplanes right from there, like 50 feet down from the cruise port. Old sailing ships are there you can tour, helicopter tours, and then if you were able to walk, say, a kilometer or so, at the end of the boardwalk, they have Stanley Park, which is
Mm.
another place with totems and all that stuff down there. It's just so peaceful and relaxing and a lot of fun to sail there. I absolutely love Vancouver.
I need to go to Vancouver. I think as far as places to sail away from, I think probably the coolest sailaways that I've had. Obviously, when we sailed from Australia, that was pretty amazing. From Sydney, that was pretty
Yeah.
amazing to go under the Harbor Bridge and see the Opera House. Both of my sailings from New York, pretty amazing. Sailing past the Statue of Liberty under the Verrazano. I even like sailing out of Tampa under the Skyway Bridge. But as far as like favorite ports to just jump on a ship and get out of there, I still like Port Canaveral the best. It's hard to nail down my favorite place that we've ever been, though, because it's like, if I could, we've been very fortunate that we've
Yeah.
gotten to go to a lot of places. But I would love to like go back to Tokyo, or there's so many. Anytime I can go to San Juan, I'm excited. So yeah, that's a tough question. Tough question. Uncle Dave, do either of you think Princess will ever put a ship in New Orleans? We have Carnival Royal and NCL. I mean, my opinion is this. We saw Galveston start with just a few cruise ships, and as that place became more and more popular, we're seeing a lot of interest and investment and cruise lines moving ships to Galveston. That could happen with New Orleans. I don't know. Like, I didn't really love New Orleans as a cruise port, as a disembarkation port or embarkation port, but it's all numbers and money at some level. And if you get enough people to come through New Orleans, and all of a sudden Princess goes, oh, there's money on the table if we don't go to New Orleans, then they'll go to New Orleans. But I don't know.
Well, also, as they bring on more new ships, they might start looking to spread them out some, right? So, because we got the Sun Princess coming out, and they've already announced the next Sphere class coming out. So, more ships, they got to divide them up somewhere.
Chris Brooks, I've seen two interesting questions. Drew is asking, in all seriousness, is Don healthy now? That I think it's a weird way to phrase it, but how are you doing? Let's get
I
serious,
feel,
Don.
I
No
feel really
lying.
good. I feel really good. All my nausea and everything from my stuff is gone. My radiation treatments and everything. I actually see the doctor this coming Tuesday before my trip to move. Well, I got to move my sister first, and then my trip after that. But yeah, right now I feel good, and I'm hoping that the surgery and the radiation did what they say it's going to do. And I'm back to my diet right now, which is good. I'm down 10 pounds in a week, which is amazing. So I got 5 more pounds to go before my cruise. I got 2 weeks to do it. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I'm
Excellent.
feeling good. Thanks for asking. I'm feeling pretty good.
Eric Granger, thank you so much for the super chat. This has been really interesting. Great idea. Look forward to future episodes. Thank you. We're glad to do it. And then Chris Brooks has an interesting question. What suggestion would you give to a new travel agent? You've been in the biz for a while, Don. What's some of that sage advice for a newbie?
You have to really be patient. Don't quit your day job first because it takes a while to bring in your clients, and you don't get paid until they actually travel. So even if you build a clientele over the first year, it might take another year for that money to start actually coming in. So your best bet is to keep your day job, work part-time for the beginning. If you're starting out, at home is better as far as how much money you have to spend and commit your time to. But if you're looking for instant clients, then a brick and mortar place will help out. Again, it's not easy, but visit Facebook posts, get involved in community, join church groups, join business associations. There's lots of ways to build up things, and don't be afraid to use Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to grow your business. It's worked for a couple of us pretty well.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, the big appeal of a travel agent is you're essentially getting someone's expertise for free. So if you're a new travel agent, do you have that expertise? Have you traveled extensively, or did you just sign up somewhere online? I'm not saying you particularly who asked the question,
Yeah.
but anybody can become a travel agent within the next few hours. If you have a credit card, you can go and sign up online and fill out the pay, and boom, you're a travel agent. So it's a great opportunity. It's a great business, but it is about relationships, and it's about establishing yourself with some sort of expertise so that you can actually make that proposition, that value proposition that, hey, the reason you would use me instead of anybody else is because I have a level of expertise that you would find valuable. And so, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it, but you want to be able to articulate that value proposition. So in addition to being able to gather a lot of people and get a lot of people in your mailing list and all that kind of stuff, you have to be able to demonstrate that value proposition, or people won't use you, or they'll use you once, that kind of thing. So I think it's a great question. Man,
and one of the other things you should do, speaking, if you don't know travel, you haven't traveled, like I was lucky, I knew cruising when I started. So that was my hook. But if you don't, most companies you join will have familiarization trips or fam trips, and go on as many of them as you can, because that's how you learn.
Yeah, and do all the training. There's a lot of training for all the cruise lines. Drew Furstenberger. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for the update, Don. Love Tony and you. Totally the best in cruising content. God bless. Thank you. I know Don feels the same way. We're just happy to be in the space. There's a lot of great people out there, and we're happy to be doing it. But with that, we've reached the top of the hour, and we committed to an hour. There's a lot of other things going on the internet tonight, so we want to get out of here. A big thank you to everybody who came out for this kind of impromptu, let's chop up the cruise news a little bit. And look, I'm selfish. I just wanted to talk to Don, and I could have done it privately, but it's, this is what it sounds like when we talk about it.
And he broke my secret.
That's right. I knew I was going to be able to put the screws to him and find out the deal, and so that's exciting. Thanks everybody for stopping by. My name's Tony,
and I'm Don.
And I'm Lalita Loca. Don's family vacation.
I was doing.
You could be Lalita Loca too. Okay. My name's Tony,
and I'm Don,
and we are Lalita Loca. And until the next time,
have yourself a safe and a great vacation.
And we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.
Wait.